Tonight we are looking carefully at reports and claims that a surprise overnight operation in Tehran may have targeted individuals linked to Iran's most feared internal security and enforcement apparatus, an event that, if confirmed, would mark one of the most serious internal security breaches inside the Islamic Republic in years. What actually happened overnight in Tehran is still unfolding. Iranian state media has been unusually quiet. Independent verification is difficult, and yet multiple regional sources, foreign intelligence, linked analysts and human rights monitoring groups are all pointing to the same conclusion. Something significant disrupted Iran's internal power structure in the early hours of the morning. This is not a story about explosions or spectacle. It is a story about power, control, and the quiet mechanisms that hold a political system together, and what happens when those mechanisms are suddenly interrupted. To understand why this matters, we need to understand who these so-called enforcers are, what role they play in Iran's system, and why their sudden removal would send shockwaves through Tehran. Inside Iran, power does not flow only through formal institutions like the presidency or parliament. Real authority rests in overlapping networks: the Supreme Leader's Office, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, intelligence units, and specialized internal security branches tasked with suppressing dissent, monitoring loyalty, and responding rapidly to unrest. Over decades, this system has created a class of officials whose job is not public governance but internal control. They manage surveillance, crackdowns, interrogations, and the quiet intimidation that prevents large-scale protest from becoming revolution. Human rights organizations have documented these structures extensively. They describe units involved in mass arrests, forced confessions, internet blackouts, and the violent suppression of protests, especially during the nationwide demonstrations that followed the death of Mahsa Amini in 2022. These are the figures many Iranians fear more than foreign enemies, because they operate inside the country among the population, with broad legal immunity and little public accountability. So when reports emerge that some of these individuals may have been targeted or eliminated overnight, the political meaning is far greater than the physical act itself. According to early accounts, a coordinated operation took place in or near Tehran, involving precision targeting rather than widespread destruction. There were no reports of large explosions, no public firefights, and no visible emergency response on a mass scale. Instead, the event appears to have been contained, fast, and deliberately quiet. That alone suggests something very different from a terrorist attack or random violence. Operations that are silent, surgical, and leave minimal physical traces are usually designed not to cause chaos, but to remove specific people without triggering immediate escalation. And that raises the most important question: who would want to do that inside Iran, and why now? There are several possibilities. One is internal power struggle. Iran's political system is not monolithic. It is made up of competing factions: hardliners, pragmatists, security elites, economic interests, and religious authorities, all jockeying for influence beneath the surface. Sometimes those rivalries spill over quietly, through dismissals, arrests, or forced retirements. Rarely they may turn violent. Another possibility is foreign intelligence involvement. Iran is engaged in an ongoing shadow conflict with multiple regional and global adversaries: Israel, the United States, and some Gulf states among them. Cyber operations, sabotage, and covert actions are not new in this context. Iran itself has been accused of conducting similar operations abroad, targeting dissidents, scientists, or officials viewed as threats. The logic of intelligence warfare is that no side remains immune. But there is a third possibility, and in some ways the most politically sensitive, that elements within Iran's own security system may no longer be fully aligned with the leadership they serve. Authoritarian systems depend on loyalty, not just obedience, but belief, or at least acceptance, that the system is stable, legitimate, and ultimately permanent. When economic pressure rises when sanctions bite, when protests spread, and when young people increasingly reject official ideology, that belief erodes. Iran's economy remains under heavy sanctions. Inflation is high. The national currency has lost much of its value. Youth unemployment remains severe. Many young Iranians feel disconnected from the state and its religious authority. In that environment, even those inside the system can become uncertain about the future. And that is why any sign of fracture inside Iran's enforcement apparatus is so dangerous for the leadership. The supreme leader's authority rests not only on religious legitimacy, but on the loyalty of the security forces who enforce his rule. If that loyalty weakens, everything becomes fragile. That is why state media silence matters. When Iran wants to demonstrate strength, it speaks loudly. It publishes footage. It names enemies. It stages funerals, parades, and speeches. Silence usually means uncertainty or embarrassment, and silence allows rumors to spread. In the absence of official confirmation, social media and regional outlets are filling the gap. Some claim specific names. Others claim entire units were disrupted. These claims cannot be independently verified at this stage. But even the existence of these rumors has political impact. Inside Iran, people are watching carefully. If senior security figures can be touched, then the image of total state control weakens. Fear begins to change sides. And internationally, Iran's rivals are also watching. Because if Iran's internal security is compromised, that affects everything else. Its ability to manage unrest, its posture in regional conflicts, its confidence in negotiating from a position of strength. This is why even a small operation, if real, can have strategic consequences. But there is another layer to this story, the human layer. Behind every discussion of enforcers and units are real people. Some were responsible for serious abuses. Some may simply have been bureaucrats inside a brutal system. Some may have families who had no involvement in politics at all. Political violence rarely stays clean. It creates ripple effects that spread far beyond their intended targets. That is why analysts are cautious. Removing individuals does not remove systems. Even if some figures were eliminated, the structures that produce them remain. Surveillance networks, legal frameworks that permit repression, and an ideology that justifies control in the name of stability. True change, if it comes, rarely arrives overnight. What matters now is what follows. Will Iran tighten its grip, increasing arrests, surveillance, and censorship? Will it quietly reshuffle positions, replacing those lost without public acknowledgement? Or will it attempt to signal strength by blaming foreign enemies and escalating tensions abroad? Those choices will tell us far more than what happened in one night. So for now, what we have is a moment of uncertainty. A moment where something clearly disrupted Iran's internal security landscape, but where the full meaning is not yet visible. And moments like that are rare in systems built on control. They are when cracks briefly appear, before the surface is smoothed again, or before it breaks further. We will continue watching how Tehran responds, not just in words, but in behavior. Because in politics, especially in authoritarian systems, what leaders do quietly matters far more than what they say loudly. And whatever truly happened overnight, one thing is clear. The image of absolute stability inside Iran has been shaken. Even if only slightly, and in geopolitics, even small shifts can change the direction of much larger forces. If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more war updates and global analysis.